Good afternoon, Keith Tebow from FRCMedia. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a while since we've got an update on matters of the Fall River Police Department. And we were last joined by the chief sometime, I believe, during the fall. And I'm pleased to be joined again by the chief of police for the city of Fall River, Chief Jeffrey Cardoza. Chief, how are you? Happy New Year.
Very well. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to you and your listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's get started. When we spoke last time, there was talk about a police reform bill that was making its way through the state legislature. Of course, this came on the heels of the George Floyd incident late last spring, early summer. That bill has passed, has been signed into law. How is your department working toward eventually complying to the tenets of this reform law?
So, as the process was going along, wasn't uncommon for me to have some conversation with the different state legislators that we have here in Fall River. So, kind of had a sense of where it was going, if you will. So, it's something that the command staff and I have been talking about for some time. Now that it's out, and we've kind of digested it and took a look at some of the requirements and where we stand as far as do we meet all the requirements, or do we have to make some adjustments? And there are a few adjustments that we have to make, but for the most part, I'll give you an example, like the no chokeholds. We were already doing that, so that's not something that we had to make a change.
So in terms of moving forward, it'll be somewhat of a seamless process, you would think, in terms of whatever the certification process will be for officers working with your department?
So what we did was we took some of the requirements and we made sure that we've already started to incorporate them into our policies and procedures. As far as decertification and post, it's my understanding that the committee, if you will, the post committee, doesn't even physically exist. There's no phone, there's no desks, there's no office, if you will. So logistically, they don't exist. So once they get off the ground, we got some questions. Looking at the law, it talked about, we need to supply all the internal affairs investigations. I'm curious if there's a look back period. Do they want all the files of all the active officers? So there's some things that we have to work on and address with them and get to the bottom of it, because there's quite a few police officers in the state of Massachusetts. I don't know who's going to sit down and read all these folders.
Yeah, definitely a lot there still to digest, and I'm sure everything will come hopefully clearer for you as time moves on. Also, when we last spoke, we were talking about how violent crime in Fall River was actually at that point, down compared to last year. There have been obviously some isolated incidents of violent crime across the city. Do you have any updates on how the city has fared as we ended year 2020?
So yes, I do. We're still hovering. When you look at all those serious crimes, we're hovering about a 14% reduction from the prior year. And I'm not pleased about the gunfire. Guns are our most serious, most violent crime, and our most serious thing to investigate, if you will. So I'm not happy where we're at with that. We did have an uptick in that, as you know, and we got to work hard to get our detectives doing search warrants and get those guns off the street.
But in terms of other areas, in terms of robberies and larcenies and that matter, those were the ones that sort of drove down the numbers for the year.
Yeah, there's been a trend, if you will, going downward in those areas. I'm very pleased at what the progress of the officers that work the street have made.
And how important has it been for, and we've talked about this in the past, in terms of, getting the officers on the streets, right? Those community officers within the neighborhoods. I would think that has made a big difference, as well as those people are within those neighborhoods talking to people and, getting a feel of what's happening within those specific neighborhoods.
I'm actually pretty frustrated about it, to be quite frank with you. COVID, those neighborhood meetings are not happening like they normally should. And I think it's, created a problem where communication a little bit. So there are some that are going on, remotely, if you will. And there have been a couple of neighborhood meetings where people have followed the social distancing protocols and been able to get together, but it's difficult to communicate. Now, we have such a good relationship with our neighborhood associations from the past that has been built up that, those are informal, if you will, avenues, exchanges of cell phones with officers that work in the special operations unit. So, they're getting those calls, and that's allowed us to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah. I guess that does make a lot of sense with COVID. A lot of meetings haven't been held in person, and it's kind of tough to do these types of interactions over, virtual means. We've done all these Zoom meetings since last March, and it's a little difficult to do that, especially when some information that needs to be shared may be a little sensitive and for only the ears of the police officers. Getting back a little bit to the police reform, last summer you were working with Mayor Coogan in terms of opening discussions across the community, helping to improve race relations and the relationship between the police department and the community at large. We talked about last time the forums that were held over the summer. Are there plans to continue that? And I guess what's the latest in terms of continuing to build that relationship with the community?
I've had a couple of meetings with the mayor, Bobby Bailey, who works for the Housing Authority, Elena Pavid, who works with the mayor's office, and I know they're putting some events together where they're going to include the police department in those functions. But also, we're not quite at the point yet where we're rolling this out. But the mayor's helped me and with the assistance of Carol Filer to put together a cadet program, which would be coming here to the police department, where we can bring in somebody from the city youth and a part-time job working in the police department. So I hope to make that happen soon. And there are a lot of irons in the fire. Again, I know that the mayor and the city administration has been really, really, really back against the wall with the COVID stuff. So I think that's taken a priority right now.
Yeah, and this is something I'm sure we'll grow and see, hopefully, as we head into 2021. I also want to talk about new officers. I remember during the budget process with the city council, you had mentioned that there, were some retirements, but you were bringing some new officers in through the academy. How has that worked thus far? And I guess how many more are going to be coming through if they haven't all already?
Quite a few, actually. So we have a couple officers that are just about to graduate the field training officer program. So they've gone through the academy, and then they have a 13-week field training program. So they'll be out on their own. And we also just had the other day, I don't know if you saw it on our Facebook, we just had 3 new officers start on Monday. So they're in their 13-week phase as well. And we've had a lot of retirements. We're becoming a very young organization, if you will. And we're in the process of hiring now, and we may hire as many as 23 officers. It might actually be the largest academy class that we've had that anyone can recall in the last 30 years or so.
Now, this hiring, is that going to be just replacing those that have retired, or a number of those that have retired? I guess I want to get to my next question. Is it was announced, I saw it yesterday, Senator Rodrigues has announced that the city of Fall River will be receiving for the police department a little over $500,000 as part of the public safety staffing grants, which the city has received in the past. Are these new hires going to be part of that, or will this extra money go toward even additional hires?
So the new hires are a combination of recent retirements and also the allocation that the city council fought so hard for us to fill those additional positions. So that's pretty much where the new hires come from. Senator Rodrigues' staffing grant money, the $509,000. Some of that money will go to hiring and keeping officers on the job, and some of that will be used as well to do some follow-up on some investigative cases. We try to use it creatively to fill some of the gaps in our budget.
Now, just remind me, after these hires will come on in terms of the 23 you had mentioned, what will the complement be in Fall River?
Well, we're last I checked, we were around 225. I have not looked at the numbers since we've had a couple of retirements just this month, but we're trying to stay around the 225, 230 area.
Right, and that's been your goal at least for this year as well. So it's sort of like just balancing out the retirements with the new hires and keep that number as strong as possible. Finally, yeah, go ahead.
It seems like there's this large group of officers that are reaching that retirement age. So it's not unexpected what's happening, but I think also reform has something to do with some of the people wanting to leave. getting some of that feedback, if you will, on the way out the door. They're just some of the older folks are just concerned about the direction that the reform is bringing things, and would rather just step away from the career at this point.
Yeah. And finally, one other item I want to bring up in about a little over a week or so, the police department will be working with the Blessed Trinity Parish to sponsor another Guns for Groceries program where people can turn in their guns and get a gift card for local groceries. How has this worked in the past, Chief? How successful has it been? And what do you hope to see this year?
This goes all the way back to, I believe, 1996. And Reverend Lawrence, a great man, if you will, he was kind enough for many years to fund the program. And now with his passing, when I became chief, we started discussing how could we fund the next gun buyback. So I don't know if you read it in the local media. I was actually having lunch with a high school friend of mine who was a businessman, and we talked about some of the things that I would like to see the business community get involved in, and he agreed, and I put this on the table, and we've been able to, through his assistance, been able to raise $6,000. So we know that we can fund more of these. We're not going to spend $6,000 at one gun for groceries. So we're looking forward to it. We hope it takes perhaps some guns that could end up in the wrong hands off the street, and we're going to have some Walmart and some Stop and Shop gift cards for folks.
Yeah, sounds good. And that's going to be the 30th, I believe, of January, correct?
Yes, January 30th at Blessed Trinity Parish.
Yeah, sounds good. Police Chief Jeffrey Cardoza, as always, thank you for joining us. We hope to catch up again soon. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And thank you for joining us here on FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great day.